welcome to What Drives Us, which is shouldn't be on repeat, but it is. Thank you. Look, it's not on repeat. I think. Oh, who knows?
In another 406 shows, you'll get it right. Sure.
Back to it.
This is technology is fighting back today. Anyway, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 406 for Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host. Let me introduce the other people so that I can take the pressure off my little technological failings and turn them over to one of my co-hosts, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hey, everybody. Yes, technology is fighting all of us tonight. It's a very weird confluence of technology. But my technological struggles are made better because if you have never had, I got the camera in front of you. If you've never had Maplewood Brewing, find yourself a Maplewood. They make very good beer. They're out of Chicago. And this is a fat pug. It's literally called a fat pug. And it's an oatmeal milk stout, and it is delicious. I don't even mind when my screen freezes because it means I can drink off the air.
Does it taste like a dog?
You know what?
Or is that the key ingredient?
Like a dog sniff.
Dog piss.
It's the pug that makes it good.
Exactly.
It tastes like how a cute little dog makes you feel. There you go.
And my other co-host, she is a writer and a director and all kinds of exciting things, Georgia McKenzie.
See, from the gaming community, a pug is definitely not necessarily a good situation. So,
I don't
pickup group where you randomly run dungeons and raids with people that you just collect off the server, and normally you have at least one asshole. So,
I learned something.
Pickup group. Yeah, pickup group sounds like a movie I accidentally rented in a hotel. Why?
Accidentally.
Tony, let's not talk about your tendencies.
Yeah.
Today's drink of choice is
one
water.
One of those expensive movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Expensive.
Only emotionally expensive.
But Doom, Georgia is on fire tonight. Speaking of on fire, he's my friend in Canada. Has already made fun of me for whining about 52 degrees and rainy here in lovely San Diego. Mr. Mark Coughlin.
It's so cold at 52 degrees. Oh, it's so cold.
Do you see my heater?
Got the heater on H3, high 3.
That looks like a good heater, too. I want one.
Welcome, everyone, to the show. We've got a bunch of news to discuss tonight, so glad you're with us.
Holy moly. And speaking of glad we're with us, he is the owner and founder of Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado, our technical expert and my good friend and personal car dealer, Paul Guzik.
Hey, glad to be back. And today I don't have a pug, but I have a sweet, juicy ale.
So, it's juicy.
Little squeezy, juicy ale. Good.
There you go. Our friend in the Mid-Atlantic region, famous for his supercharger reviews, Mr. Kacey Green.
Hey, everybody. It's only 44 degrees here, but still, I was able to not have to wear a jacket when I went outside to retrieve the garbage can and bring it inside.
Do you have a little heater at your feet?
I don't.
You out masculinity. Let's say that masculinity me. I don't think that's a word.
It's not about a pissing contest.
And last and certainly not least, he is the man who does all of our news on social media and writes at carswithcords.net, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello. Since we're talking about the weather, I will show off what a beautiful day it was here. You can see all the solar that we generated. That green in the morning is the battery being charged up, and then the green there in the evening is right now running on battery power that I charged up between 8 and 9 this morning. So good times. It's nice to see the sun coming out, and the kilowatts are a-flowing.
It's quite a good day if you charge in an hour.
Yeah.
It's very rainy here. Well, let's get this started. Let's get this show on the road, as I have said in the past far too many times. First story is well, as Patrick likes to call it, Russell's Rant. A place I don't usually go to for news, but nonetheless followed a link and was rewarded with a story that, well, how do you know, what is that, confirmation bias when you read something that confirms all of your feelings, whether or not it's right or not? Tony Scott at Jalopnik wrote a story called A Cultural Arms Race about big trucks. And why big trucks are so popular. And we've certainly said this many times. I don't know that this is going to be a long discussion, but I want to just reassert this fact that is inarguable. Everyone, you know, the most popular vehicle for the last 39 years, it's just, so it says in Tony Scott's article, the Ford F-150 truck. And everybody's like, Americans love trucks. There's kind of another reason for that. Americans do love big trucks, especially big, huge, aggressive, 6 foot tall at the hood trucks that'll run over children and never disturb you in the comfortable leather cabin with cup holders and surround sound. The reason, as usual, boils down to money, and that our government, heavily subsidizes truck purchases, especially if you're a business. And part of that subsidizing is also not penalizing as they would a sedan. For instance, if you had a truck or a sedan that got 8 miles per gallon, like many trucks do these days, that sedan would cost $7,000 more than an equivalent truck, because we bang the sedan for not having good gas mileage, but we give the truck a pass. In other words, even these trucks that cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 and that are going for 6, 8, 10-year car loans are still subsidized out of our pockets because they're not paying taxes that people who buy sedans would. So think about that the next time that huge F-150 Raptor comes up on your back end in your little sedan and rides your tail because you're not going fast enough in the right-hand lane, that you help pay for that vehicle.
I might also add, if you're at the front of the stoplight and black Model X pulls up next to you, dust your ass. Same reason.
Okay.
It was cheaper than my Model S because it weighs over 6,000 pounds. So they just gotta tweak their formula to say, hey, if it's a guzzler, you don't get it. If it's clean, okay. But it is the least fuel efficient electric car on the road, excluding the the new SUVs from all the people who are Tesla killers.
The whole idea that there's a tax incentive based on the weight of a vehicle is ridiculous.
It does more damage to the road. Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, it should be the other way around because, like you said, they do more damage to the road. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a Tesla story, Tony. It was a Kacey story.
So Tony makes a lot of really good. This is bad. Tony makes a lot of really good points here. Talking about not only, like you said, Russell, the tax credits, essentially that we give them, by not punishing these vehicles that get 8.6 miles per gallon on average, the ones that are statistically and provably more damaging to the environment, less safe for the drivers, and less safe for all the other cars that are on the road. Not to mention that you can't see around them or through them or over them. She goes through and ticks off every single thing it is that those of us who don't like trucks don't like about trucks. But then she circles back as a truck owner, as a expedition owner, I should say, about her huge 7 to 10 passenger expedition and her living in Texas when all the power went out and she lost power. And there were 3 of them living in the house with some pets. And they threw a bunch of supplies in the back and they all piled in the expedition and they drove to go stay with someone else. And she said, I never could have done anything like that in a small sedan. And in fact, she has sedans and had to take the truck in order to get out. And then wraps it all around to that was an edge situation. And that's where she started. That's even where she started the article. People buy trucks for the edge situations. I'm going to buy this truck in case I have to haul 8 sheets of 4x8 plywood someday. Or I'm going to run out and buy something and I'm going to need a truck to haul it with.
Twice in the entire 8 years they have the vehicle.
Exactly, twice. And I'm just going to tell you real quick
But
the
they
story
didn't
I
have to
had.
rent a vehicle at Home Depot.
Yeah, then you had to pay 8
Steve.
years for the vehicle they didn't need.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when I bought my Prius in 2004, I had a guy at work, because it was a relatively small car. It hauls more than people think, but he just looked at it, and they said, "Well, yeah, but what if you have to haul something?" And we were in the hallway at work, and he said, "What if I haul something?" And at that point, a coworker named Clay, who's just as down home good old boy as his name would indicate, happened to be walking down the hall. And I turned around and I yelled, "Hey, Clay, can I borrow your truck this weekend?" And he turned around and said, "You better bring it back full." Right. And I turned to the other guy and said, "That's what I do when I need a truck."
Not to mention that, I mean, like most Model X's, they hold less than the Model S does because they've got those beautiful seats that don't fold down, unless you're like me and waited for the ones that can fold down. So just because it's an SUV doesn't mean that it can hold more than a sedan. And just because it's a pickup truck doesn't mean it's got the little toy 4-foot bed.
Oh,
those the half beds with the extended cabs and the crew cab and
right.
it seats 9 with a 4-foot bed, and it's all about show, and it costs $75,000, and you're just driving it one person, taking up 2 parking spots because it's too wide to fit in a single parking spot. Yeah, I grew up around farmers and contractors and people who used trucks the way they were meant to be used. And then I moved into the Chicagoland area, and I realized some people buy trucks that never get dirty, and that's just wrong.
Pavement Princess.
Is that my phone?
one
No,
now.
it's not my phone. Someone answer your phone. Okay, let's go to the other side of the spectrum. Tony has a story about a very different vehicle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So,
Did I surprise you, Tony? I'm sorry.
No. I had mentioned before my computer is borderline useful right about now.
I understand.
It's really bad. So I was queuing up pictures, and it just went.
This picture, perhaps?
Nice.
Wait, where did I?
That looks pretty cool.
So
They could have done a different wipe arrangement on that thing.
I'm sorry. My computer is just pinwheeling on me here. I had a good joke going that a company was releasing a mode of transportation that they were calling the Nimbus. And I absolutely love the name Nimbus because it is one of my favorite vessels. And if you've ever watched Futurama, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Nimbus, of course, comes with its own captain and first mate here.
Very nice.
But so actually, the Nimbus is a 3-wheel personal transport, and the company here is called Nimbus, and it looks like, if you are familiar, if you've been following Toyota, it's what they were calling the I-Road, individual small city transport. So I have the website here with more pictures. They are calling it, if you want to compare it to a enclosed motorcycle. So if you want the small form factor, the individual transport, but not the exposure to the elements that you would get in a motorcycle, then something like the Nimbus is for you. And you can see them, stacked up. They're just as wide. They're under 3 feet wide. So about as wide as a regular motorcycle, the same length of about a motorcycle. And they're coming with 3 airbags, a front airbag, 2 side airbags. And as you can see up here in this picture, the driver sits in front, the passenger sits in the back. And they are talking about 119 miles of range that you could charge at 45 minutes, level 3 fast charger. And, I like it. I think it's cute. I certainly would not drive it on the highways around Chicago, but I live in a far north suburb. And if I'm going to the library, if I'm running to the store, if I'm hauling 4x8 sheets of plywood, I would certainly, throw in one of these, But hey, I mean, if I'm heading to the local microbrew to pick up another 6-pack, I think this would be loads of fun to drive around.
Unless someone in the F-250 plows into you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. You're a little squishy.
With airbags,
Find me a motorcycle rider who has never thought about an F-150 plowing into them. So that's where the bar is. When you're looking at the Nimbus, you can look at it and say, that's the tiniest little car ever. Well, but tell that to a motorcycle rider.
So I've got two questions. The gyroscopic control that we've seen on that one 2-wheel motorcycle, whatever happened to that? I mean, we never see anybody use that for their enclosed motorcycles. And then the second one I had was, why does it take 45 minutes on a fast charger? That sounds like either they meant level 2 or that they've got a hell of a taper to get 119 miles and can't handle a DC fast charge faster than 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think you're right. They must have meant level 2.
Yeah, I think somebody screwed
when
that
they
up.
said fast, they just meant faster than level 1.
Right? I mean, because 45 is great on level 2, but if I were paying by the minute at EVgo or Electrify America, I would be a little upset at that.
Yeah,
And
I'm
just to
looking at the specs.
And just to criticize their marketing for a second, anybody buying this vehicle and whose main concern is DC fast charging probably shouldn't be buying this vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like Tony said, it would be great to go, point to point and keep out of the elements and not take up too much road
115
space.
miles. Yeah. I mean, I have a 20-minute.
Ride it to Home Depot to rent the truck to take home your closet.
Put it on the truck.
Yeah.
With your other stuff.
And take it home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you got to get back for the truck.
Get back from Home Depot.
Right.
Actually,
But
I was at
yeah.
IKEA this weekend in South Denver, and I saw like 4 Home Depot trucks in the IKEA loading area because people live in an urban environment, need to get their IKEA crap home. They just go get the Home Depot $20 truck for 2 hours and bring their crap home. So
See, that makes sense. Yeah.
IKEA should rent their own trucks with those cargo bikes.
You can actually order.
That would be a good.
not at our Home Depot or IKEA.
Yeah,
I
where I was, they
have
charged an
actually-
arm and a leg for that. Like more than what you bought.
No, actually, it's pretty reasonable. I bought a number of things just the past week, and that was $50.
That's not
And
bad.
everything I bought with the price point at IKEA was still cheaper than getting one item somewhere else. So, because I got shelving, I got steel shelving
There you
to
go.
kind
It
of.
must have been.
But
It must
can
have been
you
because it was in
pronounce the
Charleston,
name of
South
the shelf?
Carolina.
It was Hilf. Don't forget, I have friends in Iceland. So
Nice. Yeah, this tilting thing reminds me, there's a company here in Oregon called Tilting Motorworks, and they make kits that you can put on a Harley, a Honda, or an Indian, and it converts it to a tilting motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Piaggio MP3 with a body.
Yeah, it kind of, pretty much is.
But unlike another 3-wheeled vehicle company, which will go nameless, Portland, they're making this and it's $7,000.
It's not a bad price.
That's
And
cool.
not bad at all.
And if you take
But
it to a place
I-
where you pay for parking, I mean, if they have the smaller slots, like the motorcycle slots, then you can pay a quarter of the price.
Right?
I just think that although it's cute and everything else, I love it. But people are going to buy it for young first-time drivers, especially just to get around. And while I think that the safety features are good, you know what people are going to do with a little motorcycle that can zip in and out, and they get to feel like they're, on a motorcycle track with all the tilting. So
I
gonna
think
be
there might be
interesting.
some of
Your
those.
youngling can't
Yeah.
leave the town because it only has 111 miles range.
never test the reasoning capacity of a youngling. or an old
True.
No,
one.
and I think you're right. And I think, there you could do that with anything. I mean, I think, some of us did stupid things with full-sized vehicles that, and some people are going to do stupid things in this, but perhaps if this is what the youngling has as their first vehicle, maybe they'll be more aware. Their head will be on a swivel more because they realize they're pretty fully exposed. Maybe some of them will be more cautious because of the fact that they're not. I mean, hell, I had like a 2-ton Ford Fusion. What is it? I had a Ford Fusion and a Ford LTD station wagon as my first vehicles. I could have driven through a concrete wall in those things and come out unscathed.
Yeah, there was a vehicle that they were advertising in Europe. It's a 4-wheel vehicle, but it's an EV, so it only went 120 miles, and it was like thin plastic sides. They're like, you're young and will know how to drive safe after this.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Survive.
If they survive, yes.
Well, considering the fact that it's small and it really does reduce the overall amount of cars on the road, something like this for basic, simple, short trips, I'd say it's a good thing. Anything that reduces overall amounts of cars on the road is.
Does it say if you need a motorcycle license to drive it?
No, because it has 3 wheels.
3-wheeler.
Right.
And it's enclosed. And I think those laws vary from state to state, but
Yeah.
So
Fair
this
enough, Patrick.
could be some kind of like a Lime scooter type of platform, maybe. Just put them around the city and rent them by the hour.
That was one of the pictures that Tony showed us. Yeah.
I think the last thing I want to say on this is the cool thing about this is it's $7,000. It is freeway ready. It's in town ready. It's easy to park. It's electric, which means mobility for people that don't have a lot of money, that don't have the ability to get a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 car loan. Hey, this is reachable.
mm-hmm.
And that's
Or the
a really
commuter
good
to
thing.
get to the commuter rail station that's 3 miles from their house, to get to the city.
Absolutely. Right. You park in the motorcycle parking at the car lot, and then there's always lots of that. Well, I shouldn't say always, because I've been places where, but
it's usually good parking spots, and like you said, usually very available and probably more affordable. So yeah, those are all good.
And it's enclosed, so if it's raining, like it might be in San Diego, you could stay nice and dry.
Right.
There you go. Well, up next is our friend Patrick, who has a happy story, sort of. And then it gets sad.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from the Texas Observer, and it's titled "A Texas City Had a Bold New Climate Plan Until a gas company got involved." And this is a long, comprehensive story. I'm going to give you a few of the highlights, but you should definitely go check it out. And it's talking about Austin, the weird little part of Texas, and how they have this idea where they were going to look at shrinking their carbon footprint because it's an existential threat to human life on our planet. And they were going to eliminate gas use in new buildings by 2030, and then a plan to even further remove it from existing buildings by 2040. Well, speaking of existential threats, the gas company saw that as an existential threat to their business. So they got involved in this legislation, and they went through line by line making changes. So for example, where it said electrification, they changed it to decarbonization, and that way it wouldn't rule out gas completely. And where it said electric vehicles, they changed it to alternative fuel vehicles so that you could have compressed natural gas as an alternative fuel. And so this is a company with a lot of money going through and making sure that they can't get written out of the law, and that things are going to go their way. And so it was just really frustrating to see how a company like this can manipulate the legislative process to make sure that they're favored for their future, even though the city here is trying to do what's right. They're getting blocked. The loopholes are being put in so that this business can continue to pump CO2 into our atmosphere, continue to increase the causes of global warming, uh, increase weather weirdification, which is how we get things like these Arctic winds that change and come through and hit areas like Texas. So it's really frustrating to see that even when there's a city trying to do the right thing, they're getting blocked at every turn. And like I said, this is very comprehensive. It talks about San Antonio. It talks about a lot of other aspects of this. And I suggest you go check it out.
You need to stop letting
Absolutely.
people
Yeah,
being regulated make the regulation. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Right.
I think I would find myself getting drawn into a Texas Observer article, but yeah, these people are very good at what they do because they've been doing it for decades.
Right.
And in the article, one of the things that they'd mentioned was sending mailers out to all the people in the town saying, your elected officials are trying to take away your choices and they are trying to dictate the type of energy you have, and it's going to your price is going to go up because of this and this and this, and you need to call your elected representative and tell them to stick with Texas energy sources. And yeah, I mean, they're just trying to rally up the citizens because it's worked before, it's going to work again.
Yeah, they're doing the exact same crap in South Carolina right now. Our power company is trying to charge us a fee for the sun that they didn't install in the center of our freaking solar system. And then they've been mailing all the neighbors, hey, your neighbor with solar is going to make your bills go up. So they're going to charge them and charge me.
So people are now lining up throwing rocks at your house.
Not
Trying to
yet,
crack the
but
solar
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly the opposite of the truth.
Yeah.
If you have solar, then you're able to take that load off the grid. So as the loads on the grid increase, they don't have to go through and upgrade all of their equipment.
But they
Because
want
you're
to
more
install their own
self-sufficient.
solar fields so that way they don't have to share with me.
Right.
Yeah, but what about when Kacey sucks all of the energy out of the sun and things get colder in his
Oh,
neighborhood?
that North Carolina town.
Okay. What about that?
Yeah, I saw that Onion article. We should be talking about that.
No,
one
it was
now.
real. There was a real town in North
It
Carolina
was real,
that
yes.
yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
And
I can
wind
tell-
turbines
Hey,
blow the Earth off its rotational axis as well, out of its orbit.
I can tell you that
I
I've
don't-
seen a lot of this kind of stuff in all my years watching way too many city meetings, because they have the time to attend city meetings. And the worst thing in the world that became really hot and sexy in government, especially local governments, was public-private partnership. And
Ugh.
you got to invite all the stakeholders, and that would include your companies, to have a chance to look at this. That's kind of where public comment and participation comes from. Well, it's not just the citizens, but the companies. Unfortunately, the citizens often don't have the time to show up as often as they need to. So I'm not very surprised. I am happy to see that basically it didn't work, at least in Austin, but it does work. That's why the language used to motivate people to come out and pay attention, the language used to speak about important issues, it's so critical, because they spend millions hiring people to find ways to manipulate you by your fears and your desires. And what else is that when they say, oh, it's going to take away your rights, your ability to choose things? Well, what's one of the biggest things people have been freaking out about masks? Oh, it's going to take away our rights and our ability to choose. And it's like, to not die from COVID?
My right to not die.
Yeah.
I mean,
We got lucky in this
crazy.
case. The hearing is in the middle of the freaking workday, but thanks to COVID, they have to have it remote. So a lot of us have blocked up some time to dial in and give them a what for.
yeah, but I mean, it does matter. They do they manage to control the discussion because a lot of times the people who know more are always, they want to go into detail. Well, but the problem is that the people who want you to go a certain way, they don't need to go into detail. They know how to hit the buttons with the right words. And it's,
Yeah.
Everybody needs a media criticism class. What can I say? But yeah,
And you know,
it's disturbing
when
and it's wrong.
and when you look at it, if you go to any one person and say, would you be willing to spend a quarter to earn $1? I mean, every intelligent person should say yes to that. I'll spend a quarter to well, these companies are spending millions to make billions.
Right.
They'll hire people to just go to these meetings, take notes, and filibuster. They'll send out all the mailers they have to because they can send them out at third class postal rate, 18 cents a mailer, and blanket a city and spend a few $100,000 stirring up fear and making people afraid so that they can continue making billions of dollars. This
Local
is
ad
nothing
buys
to
on
them.
TV. Local ad buys. You can shoot a commercial for less than $250,000 and throw up a couple of 15-second spots at major markets, but you use local TV.
Florida Protect the Sunshine Act. Ugh.
Right. So we're outgunned, but that doesn't mean you give up. That means you coordinate. That means you work together.
Right.
That means you rally people. You get the message out with like this. That's the answer is fight the good fight.
I agree with
Sure.
that. I mean, to me, I find that people know a heck of a lot more about their local sports team than they do about policies that will affect their lives far more than a Super Bowl win. And I'm not knocking it because, you know, I have watched the sports and I've enjoyed them, but I actually prefer knowing a lot more about the policies that will directly impact my life or the lives of people I care about. I'd rather get into the weeds on that. I don't need to know about what happened in 1978 on such and such day with such and such team.
Not super helpful. Well, let's before we go to the next thing, I want to just briefly thank Ted Pierce. Ted contributed to our Patreon, and that's
Nice.
at patreon.com/whatdrivestheshow. The sad part is Ted couldn't find a link to join the membership on YouTube that we've been promoting and join Patreon instead. So Ted, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
that
you.
so much. I'm gonna work on making that link more prominent and spreading that around. So if you do want to join us, you can for $1.99 a month, youtube.com/whatdrivesus, and you can support the show and get content just for you that nobody else can see. Cool.
I'm torn right now, Russell. I don't know because I mean Ted deserves something, and the first thing I'm thinking is I could send Ted the empty can that I'm drinking tonight, but I don't know if that would dissuade him or keep him.
They send me recyclables and I send them money.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting. Like if I send you my trash, is that a thank you?
I think we know the answer there.
Yeah,
Although
I
he'll
mean,
take some of Tony's cells off and clone him and have his own Tony.
Ooh. He'd have your DNA
not worth it.
profile. All of a sudden, Tony's committing murders all over the U.S. You know, like, oh no. Well, before we go into more true crime fantasies, let's go into This Week in Tesla with Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Well, this week, there's always something going on, and this week is no exception. What we did learn this week, which is kind of ties into what drives us, because we had a conversation about this some time ago. Gigafactory Berlin is now at the point where they're putting down some times as to when the factory is going to be producing cars. They believe that we're looking at a May timetable for the first rollout of some vehicles. This, of course, would be pre-production or early production. And then we're now talking somewhere in the area of July, August for volume production. So the factory has been built. It's still being continued to be built, but a good part of it is now at the point where they can start thinking about production and how fast they can start to ramp up. And that ties into what drives us, because we had a conversation on here with Montana Skeptic about a lot of it, talking about Gigafactory Berlin and whether or not it was going to be up and running in any fashionable time that they believed. Obviously, it's not being quickly built as Giga Shanghai was, but Giga Berlin is at the point now where they believe that we're looking at some production in the middle to the, I guess, 3/4 part of 2021. So fantastic to see. And we'll watch for those first models start to roll off the assembly line in Berlin.
He had said that they were going to move to China, leave California, and not do Germany, right?
Well, I wasn't going to go into the weeds on this one, but you can certainly go back and listen to the What Drives This episode and see what Montana Skeptic had to say about that whole situation. It wasn't he wasn't too optimistic that Berlin would open in any time frame that Tesla had laid out earlier. So it looks like, at least on this issue, he's been incorrect. So we'll have to see as we get to the point of it actually producing vehicles, where those vehicles go and how quickly they come out. Next, there is a story that we've heard this before. Tesla is battery constrained. They're making all the cars they can with the batteries that they have. And what happened this week is that it was announced that all, I guess, standard range vehicles that are going to be made in the future will be outfitted with the new LFP battery pack. These are batteries that are minus all nickel and cobalt. These batteries are currently used at Gigafactory Shanghai for the standard range vehicles. And this is going to be copied and placed at Fremont and most likely other factories that open as well. But they're doing this because they are trying to pull in as many different battery options as they can to produce more volume of vehicles. So with this change, which of course is not a huge change for the standard range vehicle because of the speeds the car reaches and the acceleration that car has, the LFP battery is perfectly suited for that application. And it gives Tesla more ability to move other nickel-based battery supply to the more performance vehicles. So this is a change in what Tesla's been doing, but they have been doing this again in Shanghai almost since inception. So it's not something that's unproven or untested. These vehicles have been made now for some time, and they're saying that this is now being switched over to North America's factory at Fremont, where they will be doing this going forward. So they're just out there letting us know ahead of time that this battery is in the case. Yes, Tony.
Yeah, real quick. Sorry, but LFP, what does that stand for?
That stands for L for lithium.
Lithium ferrophosphate.
Ferrophosphate batteries.
Okay.
Iron and phosphate.
Okay, I had not heard the acronym, and I was curious. I literally did not know what that stood for. Okay, thank you.
It's a good question.
Also, Elon had indicated through Twitter, of course, where else would he indicate this, that the full self-driving beta program is a little bit behind, as we know. The full self-driving beta testing that has been going on with about 1,000 different users at this point has not gotten to the point out of beta, nor has it increased the number of beta users. So he is indicating that, again, there's no solid numbers here, but they are indicating that they're moving forward with it. Yes, more beta testers will be added to the program, and he believes that we're probably shooting for an area of Q2 of 2021 before it comes out of beta and is available to the general public. This is no specific timeline. He has indicated also in these tweets that we have to be very sure that this is working in all instances before it's released for public consumption. They know that they can't have an edge case that's going to go out to the public to be used maybe in a manner that people aren't prepared to watch for or be diligent about, because we all know that the public as a general whole, we've got a bunch of people that may not really care. They're not looking, they are not beta testing it. They would use it just as the product. So Tesla has to get through all these edge cases. They're not through them yet, and that is what has pushed this release date back further, and it still may continue to push it back further depending on how Tesla handles the issues that are in front of them and how long it takes to work through all these different edge cases. We even had someone at the Tesla Life Twitter feed complain about, where is full self-driving? Why don't I have it yet? And it's like, yeah, you're right. You paid for it up front. In a lot of cases, people have paid for this service up front. In a number of cases that pre FSD beta, some people paid for it and have never used it, and their car is now gone. They may have leased the car and it's now over. So yes, some people have paid way too early for it and nothing's ever happened. But at least what we can see with the 1,000 beta users now, that they are working through these issues. It's certainly a lot closer it's ever been before, but Elon was updating the timeline recently. So we wanted to touch on that as well here today. If you would like to see more information about Tesla and its news throughout the week, please join us over at the Tesla Life on YouTube, also on Twitter, the Tesla Life, and finally through our Facebook feed, the Tesla Life #1. And you can follow us there throughout the week.
And Apple Podcasts.
And now Apple Podcasts, exactly. Just released an audio version.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Mark. Let's talk about something that we talk about on the show once in a while, but not enough. Georgia has a story about contemplating maybe choose something other than a vehicle, a motor vehicle, I should say.
Well, so it's kind of funny for a car show, which what drives us is basically about at least electric vehicles, to go, hey, have you thought about not having a car at all? Just kind of no to the car. In Bloomberg City Lab, we've got a great article from Beth Osborne, the Director of Transportation for America, and Ben Holland, the Senior Associate at Rocky Mountain Institute, which, Senior Associate for Rocky Mountain Institute's Urban Transformation Team. So basically, he focuses on city planning. And to sum it all up, because it's a bit long and goes in depth in a few things, we're still not hitting our marks if we switch to electric vehicles. So if we really want to curb our emissions, we're going to have to do a bunch of different things. And that includes building for the possibility of not having a car at all. And that is, honestly, everything they're talking about is actually good in multiple other ways that we don't really think about when we just talk about electric vehicles, because how we live is critical to whether or not where we live is cutting down on those emissions. And if we actually have to do things like, I don't know, instead of extending highways and doing, big expansions of our current road systems, we actually fix the ones we have right now, which are in terrible shape. Right there, that's a jobs building program. And when we talk about building places to live, there's a lot of infill that most cities and municipalities, most counties can actually work with, as opposed to just kind of sprawling out and creating more and more developments where everybody's got a giant home on postage stamp land and it's more and more removed from transit centers and from key shopping areas. And while we're on it about shopping areas, instead of localized massive areas to shop in, like malls, or even the California, as I consider it, the California roadside mini mall, where you go every 2 blocks and there's like a whole conglomeration of businesses and restaurants, and that's it. And then somewhere over there off on side streets or home, Well, maybe something a little bit more integrated. So if you're from New York, and if you know this mall, you don't have to drive all the way out to Long Island to go to a shopping center to get something. We're talking more about local businesses. And what's funny is these are old ideas. And we're talking about the ways how they actually benefit us to create a new future here. But we've never done it. We've kind of, going back to our first story, we've always kind of listened to the businesses and the builders who say, no, 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 we should have a special zoned area and you're just gonna, it'll be okay. You don't need public transport. We're gonna get into a car. You're gonna buy your own car. You never have to wait for anything and you're gonna drive to where you need to. So I really liked how they lay it out with the additional funding from the Biden administration to support our currently struggling transportation, but also changing how we fund transportation programs in cities. So it's a little bit funded more like how we fund highways. This has a lot of good ideas in it. Now the question is, can we get any of that in active policy? And the positive side of that is they mirror this with our current Transportation Secretary, Buttigieg. Hopefully I said that right. But his South Bend program has a lot of good parts that we could expand on nationally. So I think there's a good chance that we're going to see some movement towards these kinds of no car policy movements for cities and states. But as always, can it pass? Can it pass muster in the House and in the Senate? Is it going to need to be a law, or can we just do it as these are directives that are internal and we incentivize that way with funding plans and everything else? So hopefully Infrastructure Week in America will actually be infrastructure related instead of yet another disaster that we've come to associate Infrastructure Week with for the past 4 years. It's really good stuff. So I encourage everybody to go through and read that article. What do you guys think about giving up that Tesla?
Well, I mean, we need to like they've already been doing. We need to replace anything that we're going to keep with an electric car. And then, like you said, we don't need as many cars as we have. But not just cars. Our buses. There's no reason for your mail truck to be only 10% electric. All the mail trucks need to be electric, and all your buses should be electric. And your cruise ships should have sails on them. I mean, we just need not cruise ships, but the freaking.
But that's exactly
the fleet ships. Yeah.
Opposite of the point Georgia was making.
No, because you need less of all of them, but whatever's left should be electric. Or
okay,
sails.
yeah. So that's table stakes.
That's it. We could just use our Nimbus motorcycle thing. And
the Nimbus 2000, wasn't that one of the brooms in Harry Potter? We could all just fly around and
yes.
Bicycles, more bicycles.
I do see a problem with this, the fact that it's already spread out so far already for so long. So you've got what percentage of the population are already living in homes in subdivisions that are outside of the busing areas. There is no standardized busing area that's big enough to handle the amount of people in these far off subdivisions. So they're going to have to sell their houses to move to a more urban dense area. There's a lot of issues with it because we've let it go so long in the builder's direction. And there's going to be, it's going to be difficult to pull people back into a more sustainable living pattern.
Mm-hmm. But is this a world problem or just North America, Australia, and North America and Australia?
Because I'm going to also say, again, I've sat through a lot of these meetings. NIMBYism, getting public transportation to these spread out areas is often couched in, okay, I'm going to say it, systemic racism, because you don't want to have those people coming to your area. I've lived in Alameda. You have no idea how often they wanted to lift up the drawbridge because that leads into Oakland, and those Oakland people come through and drive down Park Street and to head to our mall because it's the only grocery store in the area that they can get to easily with a car. And that affects the fact that when you head out to certain other parts of town, and even in my Northern California area, People don't want to have accessibility because having a car it means that you have the right economic means to be in their space. Now that doesn't make you any better of a person. It doesn't make you any less likely to steal or to be violent or anything else, but still, that's why we don't have spread out public transportation.
Yeah, I lived
I
car free
wanna-
for 7 years. And then I moved to the suburbs, and that was just no longer an option.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get in my 2 cents on this. 2 points, 1 cent each. Like Mark said, we have allowed the diversification to go on for so long. Now we would be asking people to give it up. Nobody likes to give up something that they already have. Secondly, I read an article a very long time ago from the U.S. What is it? Green Building Association, that was talking about the adoption of LED lights and energy efficient appliances. And as people adopted more energy efficient appliances, they used them more because they were more energy efficient. So now we're replacing internal combustion engines with electric vehicles and telling people these electric vehicles are 100 times more efficient than your internal combustion engine. They're cheaper to fuel, they're cheaper to maintain. So people are going to be more likely to drive more miles in them, which means they're not going to feel so bad being one occupant in a 4-seat vehicle. That's
Yeah,
where I see this going.
It's a
Dave
common
Vaughn's
story. People buy a
paradox.
Tesla and they do 40,000 miles in their first year.
It's a Diet Coke syndrome where people
Yeah.
drink diet sodas and then consume more calories because I drank a diet soda. I know it seems like a joke, but it is a proven phenomenon. So yeah, human nature. It's the first thing we got to deal with and the last thing.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're getting short on time, so we're going to wrap this up. But it's a great conversation, and it's one I would love to spend an entire show talking about. Hint, hint, Georgia.
Members.
So let's go to Mr. Paul Guzik, who has some other news about.
Yes. So there's yet another EV company expanding in North America, Polestar, which I guess is part of Volvo, which is part of some Chinese company.
Geely.
Yes. And currently they have, and I went to the website, by the way, trying to find where their current stores are, and they don't call them stores. They don't call them dealers. They call them spaces. So if you go to their main menu and you look up spaces, you can see they've got 2 in the Bay Area, 1 in Manhattan, and where was the other one? LA, I think. But they're expanding to 14 locations. One of them was in the local paper here, is going to be in Denver. Coincidentally, right down the street from a Tesla showroom. Because we all know that if McDonald's is on one corner, across the street, you build a Burger King, because they've done all the research on where to put the store. So it's interesting. I guess we'll see how well they'll do. They don't certainly have the mind share with the average consumer as an EV company.
Nope.
And I have no idea how they're going to service all their customers with only 14 stores in the country. But I guess it's a good thing that company's expanding, but I don't think you can actually take delivery of the cars yet in North America. The article
for sale.
Okay. The article did say in Scandinavia in August, they outsold Tesla, which is pretty amazing. I guess they had some significant incentives.
They're local.
What's that?
They're Volvo.
Yeah,
they're local.
Yeah, they're local. Yeah. So yet another company that's trying to copy the Tesla kind of retail experience, not a real dealer, flaky service offering, at least to start. So we'll see.
You're not wrong. I think their factory is around. One of their factories is around the corner from my house in South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
It's great to see more manufacturers opening up more spaces. Yeah.
I've heard really good things from other journalists about Polestar. I've been a big Volvo fan, and Geely is certainly I want to say a better Chinese manufacturer. I think that still leaves a little bit to be proved, but
I mean, the good thing is Volvo knows how to build cars. They've been building cars forever. They've got a great, reputation for safety and innovation. So it's not just a startup with no experience.
I
I
don't know,
wonder if
man.
they'll do the service for them, Volvo. Just take it into your Volvo dealership. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That's probably the way they're going to have to do it. But again, they're going to have to train special dealers to do it.
Yeah.
But using Polestar as a wedge and and evolving the Volvo dealerships to electric vehicles, it might be a good long, let's say 10-year plan.
Yeah.
And back in the old days, like when Acura came out, there were some dealers that were Honda Acura on the same property, and then they kind of spread apart. So maybe they'll do something like that.
Right.
Right. Because Acura customers expect more.
Right. The free
I see it'll next to the Accord and make them mad.
which always makes me laugh whenever I go to a Lexus dealership. It's like, okay, whatever. Anyway, having said that nasty thing, let's finish up by going to Kacey, who has some news about new shoes for EVs.
Yes, some new sneakers. So Michelin has been working with EV manufacturers for quite a while, and they came to the conclusion that the same way they made eco-type tires for the hybrids, it's now time to do that for all of these EV sports cars and trucks, because nobody's making a practical one. Everybody's making boom, vroom, vroom, but minus the gas sounds. So they're calling their new Pilot Sport EV tire. It's going to be targeted at optimal grip on wet and dry roads, outstanding resistance to wear, especially under the extreme torque of these EV sports cars and trucks. And they're going to be 20% less perceptible road noise. And on some cars, they even predict 31 more miles of range per charge. And of course, because you're using less energy, you'll have less CO2 use as you operate the vehicle, but they're even going to claim less CO2 in the manufacture at the point of sale. So next year or late this year, we should see anything from 16 tire sizes, from 18 inches to 22 inches.
See, that's great, because I mean the biggest complaint, well, I won't say the biggest, but one of the biggest realizations of people who go from an internal combustion engine to an electric car is they had no idea how much road noise their tires were generating. I mean, so on noise alone, that's a huge deal.
I hope they come in my size.
Kacey, does it say if they have any kind of mileage warranty on the tires?
I hadn't noticed it when I read.
I was looking for.
They'll say 60,000 mile warranty, but you can burn up the rubber on a Tesla in like 12,000 miles.
Yeah. I was looking at the press release from Michelin for warranty and price, and I didn't see either of those.
Yeah, I think they're going to settle all that right before they hit the market in the summertime.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, once they do that, then some OEM can jump on it, and we can have same way that Goodyear did for the Volt, and the Bridgestone Ecopias did with the third gen Prius, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, if they improve range, I mean, every EV range is one of the first questions, so that they're all going to be jumping on anything that can get them better EPA range. They'll definitely go for it.
Especially if there's any meat to that 31 miles per charge claim. That's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine you have a 100-mile EV, and now you have 131, or you have a 1,000-mile EV like the Aptera, now you've got a 1,300-mile range.
So did they say, was it 30% or 30 miles?
They said 31 miles.
Yeah, so that's weird to say miles, because
that would be on an EV that already has like a 300-mile range.
Yes,
There's no way a Nissan Leaf is going to get 30 miles.
No,
exactly.
That would be awesome, though.
Yeah, they should have quoted a percent. That just seems like a little bit of deception there.
Yeah, or
I'd be putting one of these on my Nimbus.
A corporation deceiving consumer? No.
You need to upgrade your Nimbus to 18s first.
Putting it out in the best possible light that you might misconstrue that. Never.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about it, the only EVs on sale today that have an 18 to 22 inch tire, they could all, because I mean, we're talking Ford, Tesla, GM, and then all of the Germans, they could all use some more range at this point.
Yeah. And even some of the plugins, the Prius Prime, RAV4 Prime, the whatever. I
The
mean, you
bolt.
take
Bolt
and the
EV.
bolts and
Bolt
all
EV.
but the volts and all of those. If you can extend the battery
B.
range before
B.
the engine kicks in, that's even that's a big deal.
And tires are a lot cheaper than lithium ions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Kacey, for that. Let's do some shout outs and go home. I want Mark's like, yes, I'm okay. For the record,
Hang on, aren't you all at home except for me?
thank you. I was just going to say, Paul Guzik is the only one every week who is not at home while doing this show. The rest of us just turn off the mic and walk into the kitchen. Paul's like, oh, now I gotta drive home.
But I do want to go home.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start with Patrick Connor.
Hello, I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. My recent article is about when will Tesla vehicles drive themselves. And just for Russell, I went through and put all the times that Musk said it was going to happen that have been missed. Just for you, just to acknowledge that's a real thing.
Touche, Tony. And thank you, Patrick. And yeah, you know what? You and we should hook up and do another membership only thing
That
on
would be
that.
cool.
Because
Yeah.
That would be a great membership conversation. Yeah.
yeah, because I got some issues, as everyone knows.
You know that.
Paul Guzik.
You walked into that one.
Just wide open, man.
All right,
And
Paul
then he
wants to go
froze.
home.
It's what I do. Paul, you want to do some
But
shout
Russell's
outs?
frozen.
Oh,
Russell is frozen.
So let's.
Oh no.
That was awesome.
He froze again.
Russell's frozen. So I'll just say I operate Boulder Hybrids. We are a repair shop in Boulder, Colorado. If you have a EV or hybrid car, check us out, boulderhc.com. If you want to buy a used hybrid or EV and sometimes occasional weird cars, boulderh.com.
Excellent. Thank you. And I don't know if I'm back or not because my
back.
screen never froze, but there we go. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Let's go to, let's see, Kacey Green.
So I've got a couple of fresh videos for you over at youtube.com/Kacey Green. I did a 3-hour live stream. You don't have to watch it all. Did a quick little short video on the Tesla Smart Summon, driving itself over to pick me up from an ATM. And later this week, we've got, probably Sunday or Monday, we've got a deep dive into the new Tesla software update 2021.4.11. It said minor fixes, so that means that all I can do now is pull out my test sheet and see what's hidden under the covers. So we'll catch you on that on the flip side.
Definitely check out Kacey's channel and subscribe so that you can get all of the news that's fit. Where am I left with? Mark, yes, Mark.
You sure?
I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm completely fucking lost.
Well, what I will say, if you are still watching this program at this point, please.
What the hell are you thinking?
Video, that helps us out. Also, please press that subscribe button if you haven't already, because it's not going to get any cheaper. Trust me. It's free at this point. Also, you have the ability to help us out with a membership. If you'd like to spend a couple of bucks with us, you can do so as well. So thank you very much for watching tonight, and we will see you next week.
My screen, everyone is frozen but me, which means I have no idea if this is getting out or not. Hopefully it is. Let's go to Georgia McKenzie. No.
As your news aggregator, like I do, to get your news. Make sure you look for the What Drives Us magazine. There are more people subscribed to the What Drives Us Flipboard magazine than there are actually the What Drives Us YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
But it is where Philip Barclay and I throw, alt vehicles, advanced technology, mobility stories up. So if you want to see what is going on, what's new, what's current, make sure you find us there. And Russell is back.
Can anybody see me?
Yes.
I'm back. Yeah, I have no idea. I think it's actually the computer having a nervous breakdown. So I'm going to say really, really quickly and hopefully end the show before something else embarrassing happens. Thanks to everybody on the show tonight. Mark, Georgia, Paul, Casey, Patrick, and Tony. And we will see you next week. Download us then and find out what drives us. Come on. There you go. Yay, that worked.
I think we need Kacey to hit it. There it is.
I'm giving it up. See you later, bye.
See ya.
Booty edge.
Boom.